suppose that Mark's grandfather, his name is Mel, and suppose that both Mark and Mel have a kind of great love for whiskey, right? So from time to time, Mark has Mel over, has him for a whiskey evening, and they drink whiskey together. But suppose that Mark finds out that Mel, in fact, has designs on his whiskey collection, right? So Mark, being the great whiskey lover that he is, he sort of thinks that this won't do, and he becomes quite concerned about this, and he thinks, well, something needs to be done about this situation. I'm going to sort this out, and I'm going to really make sure that nothing happens to my whiskey collection, right? So he goes off and he gets himself a pistol or a shotgun, as you like, depending on whichever you think is more effective, and he goes for some shooting lessons, and he becomes really quite a good shot, right? So Mark then goes along he knows some of Mel's movements. Of course, he knows where Mel lives. And on one of the days, he creeps into the bushes and he's waiting there for Mel to arrive home, right? So he's there, he's got the shotgun or the pistol. He's got a sort of clear view of Mel arriving home. And suppose that as things turn out, as things play themselves out, Mark takes a shot at Mel and he gets him, and so Mark kills Mel, right? Okay, so this is the first sort of segment, right? Second segment, Jason comes along to Mark and he says, well, look, you'll never believe it. I mean, I know that I do the sci-fi thing, but part of what I've written can serve as a blueprint for a time machine, right? And so I've built this time machine. It's in the spare room in my flat, and if you'd like to give it a try sometime, then you're welcome to. Here are the keys to the time machine. You can just come by and use it when you like. And so Mark, of course, thinks that Mark is not going to give up the opportunity, and so he thinks, well, if I travel back in time, I can nip Mel's interest in whiskey in the bud, right? So even before Mel develops an interest in whiskey, I'm going to go back, I'm going to travel back, and I'm going to stop this thing at its source. The Mark climbs into the time machine. He, turns the dials, enters the dates, as you do. And so he travels back to Mel's sort of younger years, right? Teen years, okay? And so in between, he lands in, say, 1935 in Johannesburg. And in between, he thinks, okay, well, I've got a little bit of time to spare. I hear that the city library is opening. I'm going to go past the city library, have a look at this occasion, seeing as I'm here. And then I'm going to go on and I'm going to find younger Mel and I'm going to sort this situation out. So he goes past the Johannesburg Library and he has a look at this occasion. He thinks that's great. And as he's there, he takes a step in some concrete that's setting, right? So the concrete then sets with Mark's footprint in it, right? And of course, given that this is in 1935, the concrete is set, we can now go to the library buildings and see Mark's footprint set in its concrete. Okay. All right, and then, well, finally on to the main point. So Mark has now gone back in his time machine. He's got his pistol with him, and similarly, he's sort of read up on Mel's whereabouts. He spends a little bit of time kind of sussing out Mel's habits, etc., young Mel's habits. And so again, he is waiting in the bushes for young Mel to arrive home. Okay. And so he's there, he's behind the bushes, he's got the same training as he had in the previous case. He's got the pistol, he's got a clear shot. And it seems like he can kill Mel, right? It seems like he is in precisely the situation that Mark of 2020 is in when he's about to take a shot at Mel. But given that we know that Mel still needs to meet his partner, still needs to have Mark's father still needs to have him. Given that Mark is there to shoot Mel, it simply cannot be that he can shoot Mel, right? There isn't any, as philosophers would say, there isn't any possible world in which Mark is there to shoot Mel. Okay, and so the paradox essentially is, the grandfather paradox essentially is the contrast between these two cases. So on the one hand, we've got Mark in 2020, all of the same training, he's got a clear shot, and we want to say he can shoot Mel. Whereas in the case of 1935, we've got young Mel there, but Mark can't shoot Mel, and it's not clear why. And this is essentially the paradox. And so what we really want is some sort of account of why, in the 1935 case, Mark is unable to shoot Mel. What makes it the case that Mark is unable to shoot Mel when the situations seem quite similar in terms of Mark's capacity, abilities, the physical setup of the situation, etc.